one of the kind of reflective practice sessions that I routinely do around developmental evaluation, both for organizations and for communities, as a way of tracking, is because not everything goes on looking ahead and doing all the monitoring. I'll go in with a group and ask them something. What has changed? What's gone on? What have you noticed that's happening here? And we'll give people a chance to talk about what their understanding is of how that came about. Often they're quite different stories about how that came about. Even the crack house thing, within a 3-month period of time, despite the fact that they had set that target, and then the nuns began working on it, 3 months later, already there were different stories about how they had actually accomplished that were going on. And because not everybody was privy to all of what had happened, and different people see different parts of it. So one of the things that turned out to be valuable about the reflective practice piece was a chance to actually capture the different pieces, some of which these two nuns, who were the community organizers, hadn't fully shared some of the contacts that they had because they're busy doing it. And the people who had helped them with different parts of it, the stories that had come out of it, it turned out that one of the mobilizing events that had clearly been, that everybody knew about, but they had lost track of the way in which this incident was the straw that broke the camel's back and said we have to do something, was a little 6-year-old boy who had wandered up the steps of the crack house. He saw people going in and out and was curious about it. And they brought him in and were about to give him some crack. Because he walks in this house where everybody's high, and this cute little kid. And a teenage girl had seen him go, and she ran in and grabbed him, and as she grabbed him and got out, they got chased by the drug dealers, and they crawled through. They had a little playground tunnel thing that connected between the street and their playground. And to escape from these guys, the little boy crawled through. The little girl, the teenage girl, could barely get through. And the drug dealer got stuck in this little tunnel. The community got so outraged that just really galvanized them. But they had lost track of that moment in the kind of rational planning. We had a meeting and decided that we were going to go after the crack house. But in fact, it was the outrage that night of getting together and saying, this is enough. We just absolutely cannot have that going on. And so the reflective practice is getting the pieces pulled together as a coherent story that gets celebrated, the different things that went on. And then the lessons that come out of that, about who took responsibility, about what skills were needed, and their understanding of what they learned out of that ends up with what's the next piece of action we're going to take out of this. So we've learned that, and where do you go with this? Sometimes it turns into more data gathering, where it's not unusual in a reflective practice session that there's some issue that has emerged and people have decided it's important, but they really don't know what other perceptions are. So it might lead to a survey or door-to-door or something where we say we need to learn more about this for the community. But basically it's taking something that is important to the group that's come forward and rigorously recreating the story. What makes that an issue? What actions were taken? How did it happen? The different perceptions of that. And inevitably, there's lots of, oh, I didn't know that, or I forgot that, and oh yeah, that's true. And then did you know that they were doing that over there? And we had to figure this out. And so while it has the ostensive purpose of capturing the documentation and the story, evaluative thinking is being modeled as a part of all that. But you're also making connections about the holistic nature of the story, getting it all down at a moment in time before it's lost and does get mythologized, and some of the details that were important are no longer there. So it becomes part of the community history to spend some time. Those sessions usually take 2 to 3 hours. So it's a major commitment, and you don't get everything covered. We're usually able to do maybe 2 major things. But whatever, if there's been a festival of some kind, a street party or something that they've done, and we want to recapture how did that happen, how did it go, were there any incidents that were bad news, were there any spin-offs of that were good news, what did we learn about the changing regulations. It does tend to require at the beginning some modeling from a Vicky or a Helen or a Carmen or somebody who comes with that skill to show people how it's done. We usually try to have an apprentice in the community who's learning to do that. Sometimes it's a student at university or at high school that will take on a part of that, or it becomes part of a shared responsibility to write it up and to make it a good case and to check it out with people if it's going to become part of the regular documentation. There are different degrees of rigor about it. One of the techniques that I've used to try to get community ownership of those kind of things is when we come in, is to get everybody to come, sometimes in homework, everybody come with their story, how they are telling the story about whatever the issue is, so people know what the topic is ahead of time. So everybody would come in with what they think the story is of how they got rid of the crack house, or their story about what was important about the block party. And then, so it begins with everybody sharing. And part of the rigor of that is that's the data. The data is everybody contributes to the database. So one of the ways you keep it from getting dominated by any one voice is that there is a shared internal accountability commitment that we will all contribute to this community database. So everybody comes, and the first couple of times there's somebody that forgets or didn't do it or did it at the last minute and only has one sentence, and you start to develop some norms in the group about the seriousness of this, because you don't even have to point out the people that didn't do a serious job of it. It's clear to them and to everybody else. But the rigor piece is everybody makes a formal contribution, and if somebody's not literate, not comfortable writing, then they talk into a tape recorder, or somebody meets with them ahead of time and helps them write out their version of this, whatever it takes to get it done. But you're communicating the sense that we're not just kind of airy-fairy about this. We are all community ethnographers. We're going to be serious about really capturing our perspectives, seeing where they're the same, seeing where they're different, learning from them, recording this. And then you've also got one of the things then, one of the reasons you do that is, again, given how, if you're going to be a learning community, how these things get lost, once you've got several of these, you devote a session to what are the patterns across them. So we had a block party, and we got some trees planted, and we got a rundown house repaired a little bit with the help of Habitat, and we did this project over here, and we've got a reflective practice about those 4 cases. What are the common themes across those? And how do they match up with our principles? Which of our principles are evident there, and which ones aren't?